Shannon Sharpe, the former NFL star turned TV personality, has become one of sports media's most unfiltered voices. Known for his sharp takes and spirited commentary, Sharpe's opinions often hit like a linebacker charging full speed. Recently, he took aim at some ESPN analysts for their criticism of Caitlin Clark, the sensational Iowa Hawkeyes guard, and he did not hold back. Sharpe, never one to mince words, dismantled their arguments piece by piece, standing up for Clark with the same fervor he showed on the gridiron. His words were a direct hit, cutting through the noise to the heart of an issue that needed addressing. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Caitlin Clark has become a household name in women's college basketball, known for her deep three-pointers, no-look passes, and an unapologetic swagger that rivals some of the NBA's greatest. Yet her bold style of play and confident demeanor have drawn criticism from certain corners of the sports world. Some pundits on ESPN suggested that Clark's attitude was too cocky, that she needed to tone it down or show more humility on the court. These critiques struck a chord with Sharpe, who wasted no time responding on his platform, saying that such takes were not only misguided but reeked of a double standard. Sharpe's reaction was swift and intense. He questioned why certain analysts seemed uncomfortable with Clark's confidence, pointing out that male athletes who show the same kind of swagger are often celebrated rather than chastised. Why is it that when Caitlin Clark pulls up from 30 feet and shushes a crowd, she's seen as arrogant, but when Steph Curry does it, he's just having fun? Sharpe demanded, raising a valid point. In his eyes, Clark's swagger was no different than that of any other top-tier athlete, and it was about time people started recognizing that. The crux of Sharpe's argument was clear. If you praise the confidence of a LeBron James or a Tom Brady, you should do the same for Caitlin Clark. He stressed that this inconsistency is a glaring example of how women's sports are still judged differently than men's. With his booming voice and pointed words, Sharpe dissected the thinly veiled biases that too often shape the narrative around female athletes. His commentary wasn't just a defense of Clark, but a broader critique of how society polices the behavior of women in sports, often holding them to standards that simply don't apply to their male counterparts. Sharpe's knack for blending humor with insight was on full display during his tirade. At one point, he mockingly imitated the critics, mimicking their voices with a high-pitched tone that drew laughs from his audience. "Oh, she needs to be humble," he chirped, rolling his eyes dramatically. But y'all don't say nothing when Aaron Rodgers is out here discount double-checking his way to another touchdown. The absurdity of the criticism became clearer with each word, and Sharpe's comedic delivery made it impossible to miss the point. He used his signature style, a mix of sarcasm, humor, and righteous indignation, to dismantle their arguments, and it worked. Viewers were left nodding in agreement, seeing the bias through his eyes. It's worth noting that Shannon Sharpe isn't just some armchair critic. His experience as a Hall of Fame tight end gives his opinions a weight that's hard to ignore. Sharpe played with a swagger of his own back in the day, and he knows firsthand what it's like to be criticized for showing too much confidence. This background gives him a unique perspective on the topic. His stance on Caitlin Clark comes from understanding that confidence in sports is not just about skill. It's about sending a message. For Sharpe, Clark's on-court attitude is a signal to every young girl watching that it's okay to be bold, to play with passion, and to never shy away from the spotlight. The irony here, which Sharpe is quick to highlight, is that many of these analysts were the same voices who championed other players for having similar attitudes. When Clark pulls up from half-court and sinks a shot with ease, it is a statement, no different than when Damian Lillard game-time signals to the crowd. Yet the same action is interpreted in vastly different ways depending on who is doing it. This hypocrisy, Sharpe argued, is what fans and analysts alike need to recognize and rectify. "A baller is a baller," he said with a knowing grin. "If you can't handle that, maybe you're watching the wrong game." Sharpe's defense of Clark wasn't just about basketball. It was about fairness and the need for a cultural shift in how we view athletes across the board. By calling out ESPN analysts, Sharpe was forcing a conversation that too often gets brushed under the rug. The same pundits who criticize Clark for her passion are quick to praise a male player for playing with heart. Sharpe's message was that it's time to call out these double standards, to look at the language used when discussing female athletes, and to rethink how we, as a sports-loving society, can better celebrate talent without prejudice. In many ways, Shannon Sharpe's public stance is also a reflection of his own journey. As a former athlete who defied odds, broke barriers, and never shied away from the spotlight, he knows what it means to be both celebrated and scrutinized. This authenticity comes through when he speaks on these issues. He's not just speaking up for Caitlin Clark. He's speaking up for every athlete who has been told to stay in their lane, to be less visible, or to be more appropriate. It's a sentiment that resonates beyond sports and taps into a broader cultural conversation about gender, power, and representation. His criticism wasn't just a random rant, it was a strategic dismantling of a narrative that has long needed challenging. Shannon Sharpe has always known how to play the game, on and off the field. His take on Caitlin Clark was another example of how he's using his platform to speak truth to power, challenging the status quo with every word. When Sharpe speaks, people listen, not just because of what he says, but because he says it in a way that cuts to the core of the issue. His style is part preacher, part stand-up comic, and part passionate advocate. It's this unique blend that has made his takes so compelling. The response to Sharpe's comments was overwhelmingly positive, especially on social media, where fans and fellow athletes rallied behind his words. The consensus was clear. Sharpe had nailed it. People appreciated that he took a stand and didn't let the bias slide by unnoticed. Even Caitlin Clark herself acknowledged Sharpe's defense, noting that it's refreshing to see someone with his influence standing up for women in sports. This isn't just about one athlete. It's about changing the narrative for all female athletes who follow. Shannon Sharpe may have hung up his cleats, but he's still in the game. He's using his voice to tackle issues that go beyond the scoreboard, and his defense of Caitlin Clark shows just how impactful that voice can be. He's not afraid to call out what he sees as wrong, and he does so with a mix of humor, insight, and a deep understanding of the sport. In defending Clark, he's also defending the right of every athlete to play unapologetically, to own their space, and to not be held to different standards simply because of who they are. Sharpe's commentary wasn't just a response, it was a call to action, a challenge to think differently, and a reminder that the game is better when everyone can play it their way. Sharpe's message continues to reverberate across sports media, a testament to his ability to speak in a way that cuts through the noise. He isn't interested in simply having an opinion for the sake of it. His takes are grounded in experience, knowledge, and an innate sense of justice. As sports evolve, voices like Shannon Sharpe's become increasingly important. His defense of Caitlin Clark was more than just a moment. It was a movement. One that demands we look closer, think harder, and cheer louder for the players who dare to challenge conventions. In the end, Shannon Sharpe's call to recognize the greatness of Caitlin Clark without qualifiers serves as a powerful reminder of what sports are really about: the celebration of skill, passion, and the human spirit. It's a challenge to all of us to leave behind outdated ideas of what athletes should be and to embrace a future where the court is a stage for anyone brave enough to take it. With a knowing smile and a pointed word, Sharpe has, once again, proven that sometimes the most powerful plays happen long after the final buzzer sounds. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.